Minister, the Defence Forces Evidence Bill 2019 seeks to provide for members of the military police to take and use DNA samples, primarily from members of the different defence forces. It also provides for the establishment, management and oversight of a DNA military police database system operated by the Forensic Science of Ireland. And our Dáil Éireann Councóla Wake's Walden military police and sure Gaki Dana agus Martin and Leo being cheated out so and they look after us here always with decorum and dignity, and very proud record of doing that here for, I suppose, the many decades since inception of the state or since it set up, and the many other duties they do as well. I want to salute them and thank them for that. As I understand it, the military police are responsible for the prevention and investigation of offences, the enforcement of discipline and the general policing of the defence forces. They have additional wartime roles, including the control of prisoners of war and refugees. And with Brexit and so many imponderables and unknowns and talks of creating a border, I've been mentioning it here for 3 years. And I make the point I travel once a year. I haven't gone this year so far to Bosnia-Herzegovina, and I see a massive border post has been constructed in the last 10 years in the motorway. Not by the Bosnians or by the Croatians, but obviously by the EU. And I put it to Michel Barnier and others in this House when they came to talk about this. And they just playing blind man's bluff, saying that if we're going to have a hard Brexit, we wouldn't have a border. Sure, the devil and the mother and the queen and the cat and the dogs of the street now would have to have a border. Simple as that. But they like just bluff and bluster, as I said. So maybe the military police will be called and much more. And I, like others, have questions about their resources. Are they resourced well enough? Traditionally, they also have considerable involvement at state and ceremonial occasions. Indeed, we saw them at a very well-organised 100th anniversary of the first Dáil that you organised so well at your officials in Councóla as well. They work closely with An Garda Síochána, who also assist in providing specialist training to the military police in the area of crime investigation. And that's to be welcomed. The bill's digest, prepared by the Oireachtas Library Service, also provide an interesting outline of the use of DNA, which the military police will be allowed to collect under this bill. The digest notes that the DNA evidence as a forensic tool has been described as the single greatest advance in the search for truth since the advent of cross-examination. And that's a fair statement. The Law Reform Commission, in its comprehensive report on the subject, identified the purpose of a DNA database as assisting in identifying links between crimes, such as in the case of stains left at the scene of a crime by serial offenders. And we know the havoc that serial offenders can cause. The rapid exclusion from the ambit of the investigation of suspects who are already on a database and whose profiles do not match, and that has to be a good thing and welcomed as a modern technology and an advance. And the making of cold hits. The cold hits, that is where a stain is matched with a profile of a person on the database who was not a suspect. That is a major breakthrough also. It could save a lot of time and energy and effort and speed up the investigations. It is therefore capable of being used in a number of stages of the criminal justice process. It is for these obvious benefits that I see no overwhelming reason to oppose this bill before us this evening. And any concerns I may have had, indeed I had, with respect to the data collection and privacy seem to have been comprehensively provided for in this present bill before us. For example, I note that the DNA profiles must ordinarily be removed from the database within 3 months of the occurrence of the specified circumstances set out in the bill, such as where the person has been acquitted, or a conviction was quashed, or where no proceedings have been instituted at all within the 12 months of the taking of the sample from which the profile was generated. However, the Provost Marshal may, in certain circumstances, authorise an extension of the retention period by 12 months to assist in the investigation of an offence. The maximum time a profile can be retained on the basis of such extensions is 6 years, and the person for whom the original sample was taken can appeal the extension, and that's very noteworthy as well. These all appear to me to be adequate in terms of the protections we could expect. So I would hope that is in good faith, and I hope the Minister in the passage and indeed debate in committee that we'll be able to get more assurance around that area. But I couldn't let the time go, Count Coder. I know we want to get out of here this evening with the weather and everything else, just to draw your attention to the neglect, the shameful neglect of the whole the whole our army, our military police, the whole Garda Síochána, and downright blackguarding that your government ministers have given to them, and especially the defence forces. And it's timely to tell us that I think you're 6 years now in the job, and this is your first piece of legislation. As if I could be corrected now, if you like, if this doesn't say a lot, and where you hold in the pecking order of importance our Irish defence forces, when they have served us so well, many of my own area, we have such a proud record in kicking barracks in Clonmel, where you ravaged and devastated. As I said before, we kept Cromwell out of Clonmel and we couldn't keep our barracks from you, the Fine Gael government. You've taken every vestige of pride that we had in Tipperary, but you'll pay for it very soon. But I am, sir. I might make comments on the bill, but it would be remiss of me not to say, not to support our good soldiers that are out there and the military police, and I did acknowledge the work that you do here, but they haven't the numbers. The crisis is there. We only heard last week of the crisis in the aircrafts, and the gallant work that they do, and the fact that they wanted pilots to fly the emergency helicopters. I mean, and the peacekeeping roads, and twice in recent months, and the last 12 months, they've been abandoned right outside, couldn't get home to their families and loved ones after the 6-month stint, and cock-ups here and cock-ups there. But this shouldn't happen. With military precision, these things don't happen, and didn't happen. If your eye was on the ball, Minister, if you cared enough about them. So as I said, I had colleagues, constituents in that, and they're coming home for different events, looking forward to first communions and indeed confirmations and weddings, and held up after doing the tour duty, loved ones waiting for them, and we got lib answers here when we raised the question, much to say we shouldn't be asking it. Well, I would always stand up for them because I know what they do. And the paltry pay that you give them at the moment, military police and the army personnel alike, it's below the minimum wage almost. And FIS, family income supplement, had to keep them going. You can't have an army. An army can't march on an empty belly, was the old saying, in time of war. But they have to have where are all the tools of trade to provide for their families, which is a noble gesture for anyone to put a roof over their heads. They can't afford it. And it's the same in Garda Síochána. I was here this morning getting answers from your colleague, blunder and blush about all the new policies they're going to do. I met a girl today here, outside this building, and she told me, and it was an alarming thing. She was the only sent up here to mind us. Her duty today was in Temple Bar, a community police person, and to look after Temple Bar. Only one squad car, and 2 guards along with her, and she was sent up here. Shocking, in the capital city. That's what's going on in every corner of Ireland. And you think you can wipe it away and sabotage and tell us all about we're joking. That was told to me today at half 12, about 11:15, after I questioned the Minister for Justice here. I'm a bit wondering, but I'm just putting on the record, I'm really finished, Tommy, you're quick now, Nish. That's what they're standing over. And it's his first piece of legislation that he could be interested in bringing forward for the Defence Forces. And all we get is disdain when we raise the issues. But the disdain is that you and your government are neglecting our army and our military police and all the other officers of the state and take them for granted because they can't strike our intents. They are noble people who do noble service and are proud people, and I'm proud of them, and you should respect them. Thank
you, Deputy.